And it looks like we are live. Going to give John just a second here to grab our wonderful Facebook users on the Mile High Huddle Superfan group. Looks like we are good to go. Mile High, hello, everybody in Broncos country. Welcome into the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me as per usual is my good friend and colleague. He is Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, that goofy son of a gun over to my left-hand side, Erick Trickel. Erick, what's up, man? How we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited to be here as I always am every Friday night, and excited. Friday nights are also happen to be date night with the wife, and no idea what movie we're gonna watch, but excited for that as well. Excited that this week's over. Burned my hand the other day really bad on oil. It splashed up on me, so another reason why I'm super glad this week's over. It's been another terrible week.
I can totally relate to you with that one, man. Hiccups with buying houses is just about to drive me absolutely insane, guys. Our painter finally got done today, so that's nice. The paint is done. When we get moved in, at least when we close on the house, I'll post some pictures up to social media and everything like that. So we're one step closer. Next Thursday at noon, we should be signing contracts and everything. So hopefully that goes smoothly. But I mean, I swear, man, after some financial snafus, this whole painting debacle that we've had over the last few days has been really stressful. So bear with me just a little bit, guys. I'm not quite all the way there today, but no, it's going to be a fun show for you guys tonight. We were talking some breakout candidates for the Denver Broncos. I mean, obviously this is a very young and very talented roster. There's a lot of pieces on the offense, a lot of pieces on the defensive side of the football. It's going to be really fun to talk with you guys. Throw your comments out, guys. We want to hear your voices here as well. Give us some of your guys' top breakout candidates. But Erick, I'm going to let you kind of start this off for us today. We've got one on the offense and one on the defensive side of the football. Let's start on the offensive side of the football. Who do you have as your number one potential breakout candidate for the Broncos offense this year?
Well, this one's a little iffy, and I know that some people are going to have some issues with this just because of who it is, but it's tight end Noah Fant for me. And I know that we were expecting him to break out last year. He had a good rookie year, and even last year, despite the injuries, he still put together a rather solid year. But I'm still going to have him as a breakout one because he hasn't had that outstanding year that's really cemented him as one of the top, as a top tight end. I mean, he's getting close, but I mean, he still put together 673 yards receiving last year in 15 games. I mean, 62 targets. Like, he took another step forward, and a lot of people would say that, yeah, that's a breakout season for a guy, for a tight end. But I think that he can be even more, and I think that we're going to see it this year. And the biggest reason for that is I think he's going to be healthy. Everybody knows that he had the ankle injury, and it was a nagging ankle injury for most of the season. And I think that's why I would sit there and have him continue to be a breakout player for this year. Just getting healthy, being able to make that continuous impact there, and not having those down games because he's dealing with this ankle injury he had. So it's kind of tough because in a way he's broken out already, but in a way he hasn't. But I expect a bigger year for him this year, with a consistent year staying healthy.
Well, I think another big part of that was just the direction that the offense was going. Obviously, we all know the struggles of Drew Lock last year. We'll get to him here in just a little bit. But still, I mean, the inefficiencies of the quarterback play, inefficiencies within the play calling and stuff like that, the injury and everything. I mean, he would have those huge explosive games. I mean, talk about the first half of the Tennessee Titans game where he had, 5 catches for like 75 yards or something like that, was absolutely dominating the first half. And that wasn't even targeted in the second half. Now, whether that's on Pat Shurmur for not dialing up some more plays that were designed to get him the football early, or if it was on Drew Lock for just not finding him being open, because there was a lot of times where Noah Fant was wide open running across the middle of the field and he just wasn't targeted. So it's a very interesting dichotomy there. Something that I really want to kind of break down, though, was there was a conversation that I had heard, and I think it was Pro Football Focus had put out their top 10 fantasy football tight ends this year, and Noah Fant wasn't on that list. And I understand, Erick, you're not necessarily the biggest in fantasy, but still, some of the names that were on that list were very surprising to me that they were over Noah Fant. And I think a part of that has to do with the quarterback play, including, which this one doesn't make sense at all, Dallas Goedert, the tight end out of Philadelphia, it was above him. It was just a very puzzling list to me.
It was top 5 fantasy tight ends. And here's the thing with Pro Football Focus. They're going to put stuff out there just for attention. That's all that was. Just like the other one that was getting everybody's attention about the Tyreek Hill being the best deep threat. It's just attention grabbers. That's all it is. It's people, because every time that happens, every time they put something out there, guess what happens? They see a major influx of activity on their website. People go in to get all these stats and stuff like that to go say, hey, no, what about this? What about this? What about this? It's just money makers for them. I don't care about fantasy football. I'll throw that out there. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't do it. I don't do anything about it. I don't care. But I mean, I don't care about Pro Football Focus either. So it's just a double up on it. But yeah, they had Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert, and it was something that they said. It's like Skip Bayless. Like, that's all it is. Just saying something for attention.
Well, it's conversation drivers, and as you said, it's getting people to click onto their website and getting some people, throwing out and being some that false outrage, more or less. You're using social media to their advantage, getting conversations started and stuff like that, bringing people to their website. It just really is, though. I mean, when you look at the fantasy football impact of stuff like that, it's not really like a prediction of what's going to happen this season, but it is. I mean, that's kind of not really. I don't really know how the best way to say it. It's not really a prediction of what's going to happen, but kind of an expectation to where, if you're outside of the top 10, that means you're going to have a struggling season at the tight end position. I mean, top 11 for where they had Noah Fant, but still you're talking Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews. They had Kyle Pitts rated above him, and Kyle Pitts hasn't played a snap in the NFL. I mean, he projects as a future Hall of Fame tight end, a future Hall of Fame player, but at the same time, you don't know what's going to happen with him. You don't know what's going to happen during the season. He could get hurt, not assimilate to the NFL level. And I mean, they've got Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley down in Atlanta as well. And does Arthur Smith really incorporate the tight end like he did with Jonnu Smith? Is Kyle Pitts that much better of an option? It's very weird to me. Now with Noah Fant again, I mean, coming off that ankle injury, and now Courtland Sutton's going to be coming back healthy as well. Does that really kind of dig into his target share with Courtland Sutton back on the field?
No, I think obviously it will. I mean, he's not going to sit there and see, what was it, like 93 targets last year, I think is what it was. 93 targets last year. And he's good. Obviously, that's going to dig into it a little bit, but he's still going to see his fair share. But the bigger thing is that while he may have fewer receptions, he may have fewer targets, he should be more effective. And that's the key here. And real quick about Pro Football Focus, I want to say is, like, even though I work for them, I left them. They didn't fire me, so I'm not a disgruntled ex-employee. But with Noah Fant, there's a lot of things that are obviously going to play an impact on him breaking out and being this breakout guy. And again, I kind of feel a little icky about calling him that, but it is what it is. But I mean, Albert Okwuegbunam, he's going to cut into it a little bit. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, the fact that they're probably going to be and have another strong focus on getting the running game going. This is all going to cut into it, but it should just make him even more effective as a player. And that's the biggest thing for me. It's not just about the raw stats. It's about the effectiveness of the player and those advanced analytics of how many yards per catch, how many yards per reception, the forced missed tackles per reception, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm really looking at, that I think that Noah Fant will have a more effective year.
Right. Well, and another thing is, obviously, you saw the fall off. And don't get me wrong, I have not a bad word in the world to say about Tim Patrick by any stretch of the imagination, but Courtland Sutton is just simply a better receiver. And if you have Courtland Sutton on one side, and then you can get Jerry Jeudy on the other, and maybe even Tim Patrick as well, where you can get those three big-bodied receivers at the same time, and the way that they work so well, you might be able to open up some more room over the middle of the field for Noah Fant to do the things that he does best, which is, especially as you were kind of alluding to there, the forced broken tackles after the catch and stuff like that, where that big bodied guy, the athletic ability that he has, being able to run after the catch and stuff like that, you get him the ball in space, and he can really turn into that George Kittle type of wide tight end, where he can use that athleticism and just turn and run away from some guys, run somebody over and stuff. Another guy kind of in the same mold, Darren Waller as well. I mean, there's a really good chance that Noah Fant could become a top 5, 6, 7 tight end this year and be one of those true elite pass catching weapons at the tight end position that we haven't seen here in Denver since Julius Thomas left in 2014, after the 2014 season. So I mean, there's a lot of excitement, and the increased health, and hopefully he's coming back ready to play with that positive mindset, improves as a blocker as well. I mean, Noah Fant's going to be a name that is rattling across the national media landscape here very quickly. Now, before we get to
real quick with Noah Fant, those forced missed tackles, that's one thing that he has done really well since being a rookie.
Yep.
Like, he should be even better there. That's another key area. Like, he's so hard to bring down. We saw it in that Cleveland Browns game as rookie year. We saw it multiple times last year. Like, super excited for him and him continuing to progress that area of his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, before we get into my offensive player to watch here, I want to say hello to the chat. We've got John. You want to prep up Muhammad's sticker really fast? I'm going to grab Call of Duty really quick here. He dropped a super chat talking about the NFL draft next year. Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty, right? Yes, yeah. Liberty. The number 1 pick next year. Unbelievable arm. And I mean, there's an athletic trait there too. I mean, he's probably a more refined passer than Lamar Jackson, but he projects at least kind of similarly to Jackson as far as the way that he uses that athleticism to win there at Liberty. So, but Liberty's a smaller school, so how is that going to translate to the next level going into the NFL? I mean, there's a lot of questions there. Eric, what do you think of Malik Willis?
I really like him. I like his ability to use his legs to pick up yardage. I like his arm. Dude's arm is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got to have that refinement as a quarterback. The technique is super sloppy. The footwork is extremely sloppy. It leads to a lot of poorly placed throws. He has to show a lot of development to really be that number one pick next year, especially coming out of Liberty, as you hinted on and mentioned even, is going from the school like Liberty to the NFL. That's a huge jump. So he's definitely has to show this progress and with his technique, to statistical output, to every aspect, if he wants to be that number one pick. From what I've heard right now, he's looking at a round 3, round 4 pick. I think he can end up in the second round, but like any higher than that, like it's going to need a big jump from him.
Yeah, I want while we're talking quarterbacks here, and then after this, John, I'll get Eric's opinion here. We can pull up Mo's super sticker. As far as the quarterback conversation for next year, I mean, there's a lot of praise coming out. There's a lot of guys, especially because it's a deeper class, and there's obviously this year's class was only 800 people that actually 800 players that declared. There's could be potentially like
153.
Yeah, there could be like 1,200 players next year that declare for the draft, so it's a much deeper class. Malik Willis is one of those guys. But at the top of the draft, you've got your guy I know that you like a lot, Desmond Ridder. There's Keaton Slovis. You've got Sam Howell. You've got
not a single top 20 pick among them at the moment.
Really? Okay. That's kind of
okay. Me. The next year's quarterback class is deep. There are a lot of names. So there's a lot of guys that you can go and get, and just like they should fall throughout the draft. I mean, Desmond Ridder, I think that he can rise up right now. He's a 4th round grade for me. I have a lot of jokes about him being a 2nd or 3rd, but this year he was a 2nd round grade for me, just because after the top 4 guys, our top 5 guys, there was no one this year. Like, right. And to me, he was in a league of his own after those top 5 guys. But I mean, there's a lot of names, but I mean, just no top 20 guy for me. Now, doesn't mean they can't progress and get into that top 20, the top 10, top 5, whatever. And it doesn't mean that they won't be reached upon for that spot either. Right now, this 2022 class reminds me so much of 2011, where a quarterback came out of nowhere to be the number 1 pick in Cam Newton, and then a bunch of guys who were taken a lot earlier than they should have been.
Right.
Because watching Blaine Gabbert in college, like, there is no reason he should have been as high of a pick as he was. The dude absolutely crumbled under pressure. A defensive lineman would look at his weight and he would fall to the ground. Like, it's a lot of the same case with this class next year. Got to see a lot of improvement, but a lot of names though.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, obviously preliminary discussion. We got to see how these guys grow from this year to next year. The other one I was thinking about is Spencer Rattler, who has all the talent in the world, but a nickel between his ears. He is absolutely a head case.
If it wasn't for him as a person, he would be the number 1 overall pick next year. He would be up there in the discussion, not right with Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, but not far behind either. As a quarterback on the field, the dude is nuts. But he's nuts off the field. He is such a terrible person to deal with. I can't remember what it was. It was some quarterback camp thing that he was on, and his attitude was atrocious, and it's carried over to Oklahoma. Dude is just so terrible to deal with, and that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah, and that's public knowledge too. That's not something that you're finding, from talking to scouts and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of people that know about that. I think it was the Elite 11, that quarterback camp that you're talking about. Yep. And I mean, that's been coming out of Oklahoma for a long time, that he's not well liked in the locker room. He's not well liked on campus. He's not a great student. He's just kind of a jerk. So let's grab Mo here really fast. John, you got that? And yes, we do. Appreciate you for that. Mo jumping in here, $2 super, the king of the super sticker. Hey, you, what's up, pair? Appreciate you, man, for joining us as always. Say hello to another couple of people here. You got another.
Hey, wait. Congrats, Mo. Like, congrats from both of us, man. So happy for you. Super congrats, man. Yep.
Muhammad actually just welcomed a new child into the world the other day. So congratulations to Mo and the rest of your guys' family. Proud of you, man. Fatherhood's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So hopefully you enjoy it just as much as I do.
It's quite fitting talking about Malik. Like, little one's name is Malik. Like,
I forgot that. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Congrats, Mo, man. And cherish it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of the best feelings in the world to have that small child look up at you. I'm not sure if it's a boy or a girl, or it's a boy. Sorry, his name is Malik. So your son looking up at you and recognizing who you are. It's one of the coolest things in the world, man. And like I said, just enjoy it. So everybody else here, Bronco Jedi jumping in here saying, "Hey Beast, what's going on, guys? Thank you all for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast." Robert Kitchens jumping in here as well. Let's see here. Higher Learnings saying, telling Robert Caslow to refresh. Yes, Robert, we are actually live and have been live here for a few minutes. Let's see here. Miller 707 Champ jumping in here as well. Albert Knoppers, what's up, dude? Hey, grab that again, John. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Albert Knoppers Albert and Michelle actually got the opportunity to meet up with Chad a couple weeks ago. Really cool moment for those guys. Appreciate you for joining us, man. Thank you once again. Higher Learning. Jumping in here with a quick question. When is Albert O going to be good to go? It looked like he was actually out on the practice field in OTAs the other day running around and had a knee brace on, obviously with Cortland Sutton as well. So looks like he might be good to go for camp. I'm not exactly sure the time frame on that. Eric, do you know anything?
It seems like that it'll be closer towards the start of like the regular season that he'll be 100%, but he's making progress. We'll see. There's a chance he starts out on PUP, but again, it's we'll see. It's up in the air right at the moment.
Alrighty. Let's see here. Reese Scott, love the Dove Valley hat. Hey, dude, go to huddleuppod.com. Go to huddleuppod.com. That's where you can get one of those. They fit well. It's a snapback hat, flat bill. They're pretty nice, dude. That's the merch tent, man. If you want anything, I'm actually wearing the Building the Broncos t-shirt right now that you can get. Hey man, I had to. The Dove Valley Deep Divers one is still in the laundry, so I had to at least rep something from the podcast that wasn't just the lid. So, but yeah, face masks, coffee cups, anything, guys. Huddleuppod.com. Go and catch that. We got to
get some new designs out there for Dove Valley Deep Divers stuff.
Yeah? You know what? I'm actually going to talk to Chad about that. That might be something that we work out for next week, guys. Spoiler words. I'm not going to get into that right now. Call of Duty jumping in here with another super chat. Love the edge and interior D line class next year, Eric. What do you got on that?
Oh, the edge class next year is insane. So much talent. Like, it's the complete opposite of the quarterback class this year. A lot of guys who are like top 20 worthy that are going to fall that just because you can't take 20 edge rushers in the first round. Like, it's super nuts. I mean, obviously the guy from Oregon is in a class of his own. There's a couple guys from Oklahoma. There's a guy from Georgia, a couple people from Florida, all over, man. This edge class is insane. The interior defensive line class next year, I'm actually not as familiar with. I haven't started my preliminary work there yet, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, I haven't actually taken a look. I know Kayvon Thibodeau just because the highlight reels that you get out of him. There was a clip of him going against USC and Keaton Slovis from earlier this year where he twisted around and took on 3 offensive linemen, bullied all 3 of them, and still got the sack. It was insane. That guy is going to be so good this at the next level. Grab a couple more super chats here, and we'll get to my offensive player to check out as a breakout player here. Gary Palmer jumping in here with a $1.99. Nothing to say, just showing some love, but we appreciate you anyways, Gary, for joining us. Malcolm Brown, are you still down in Ogden? Malcolm,
he said hello from Homer, Alaska.
Okay, so Malcolm's back up at home where he belongs. $5 super chat here. What is the one scouting resource that you wish you had?
Access to every team's all 22 readily at my fingertips. Like, that would be the ultimate one, or having the actual NFL list of every prospect in the NFL draft. One of the two. Like, I would absolutely love it because so many websites out here, when it comes to the list for the draft prospects, it'll be one player will be off on one and on the others, and you just aren't sure. And come to find out, they actually went back to school like this year, like Reed Blankenship, or there was an edge rusher too that I actually really liked who came to find out he actually returned back to school, but it was missed by everybody. So, like, there was a couple of resources really, but definitely the all 22 tape was just right away.
Yeah, obviously, access to film and footage, anything you can with that. I appreciate that one from you, Eric, as well. But another one, access to medicals. Give me access to medicals and off-field issues, and that will definitely reshape a lot of things. Because we were talking about it. We were talking about it with
real quick.
Go ahead.
Just to interject, not just medicals, but character.
Yes, like I said, off-field issues and stuff like that.
I didn't hear off-field. Sorry.
You're good. But no, like medical issues. We were talking about it after the fact, Eric, and I don't know if you realized it. Maybe you missed it in your pre-draft scouting process, because I know that I did. Trill Williams had a massive ankle injury when he was at Syracuse last year and had ankle surgery following the season, and that's why he failed his physical with the New Orleans Saints. Like, I didn't know that even was a thing. it was public knowledge. I searched the injury history on him, and it was already available right there. But I didn't know. So that was something that I would love to have the inside access to. What do these medical issues look like? Dylan Moses, another one, the linebacker out of Alabama. I mean, everybody knew he had knee issues, but they didn't know that it was that bad. I mean, it went from second round prospect, potentially first round prospect, to completely undrafted because he had that bad of knee issues. So give me some medicals, character concerns, off field issues, stuff like that, where you don't have to really do any kind of deep digging on it. That would be a big asset in the scouting community. I tell you what, like that would be way nice to have. But as far as my offensive player to watch this year, where can you get all 22 from? Get lucky on YouTube. My offensive player this year to watch as a breakout candidate is KJ Hamler, the wide receiver from Penn State, from rookie last year, 30 catches, 381 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, that big game against the Carolina Panthers where he had 2 deep shots for touchdowns. In my opinion, they didn't use him correctly. They panicked a little bit, and they put him into a role that they didn't necessarily need to put him into after the Cortland Sutton injury. He was coming off of an injury himself in training camp. They were going to try to bring him along slowly so that he could learn. But, I mean, that explosive speed, the short area quickness, the ability to run after the catch and create some missed tackles and stuff just based on that speed alone, use him in kind of a pseudo Tyreek Hill kind of a mold. They used him out of the slot a lot, which was fine, but they didn't really use those quick pivot routes and that short area quickness the way that they needed to. And they didn't use him nearly enough in taking the top off of the defense. He only had 7 total targets last year, over 20 yards. Like, that's insane to me, considering Jerry Jeudy had 30. Like, KJ Hamler was on the field a lot, and they didn't use his skill set the way that they needed to at all.
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue too is, and not to change the conversation over it, it was the same thing with Fant, is the quarterback play. I mean, if you're not getting consistent quarterback, it's hard for 2 dependent positions to really be used to their best. But with KJ Hamler, there was a lot of him not being set up for success right away because of the offensive play calling of Pat Shurmur. And I know that he only had 7 deep targets, but he didn't have that many more deep routes either. He just wasn't used that way. And that's a big thing with him, is that you just got to use these weapons properly. And that's always been a big issue of mine with Pat Shurmur. That's one thing that I will continuously harp on him, is his failure to use players to the best of their ability. That was something that we saw as an issue with Rick Scangarello as well. Like, if you want to be a great offensive coordinator, you got to use your players to your best of their abilities. And it's not just offensive coordinator, it's defensive coordinator as well. That's why Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. He knows how to use his players and get the max out of them. So, I mean, Hamler, like, they started to use him a little bit better as the season went on, but by that point it was just a little too late, and it just ended up being problematic.
Well, I think a big part of it is, as I kind of alluded to, Cortland Sutton being back. Now that they're not relying on him to be that not really every down, but more every down kind of receiver, they can kind of focus on and specialize him just a little bit more. Obviously, you got Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy as well. So those are probably going to be your top 3 wide receivers on the field, barring any kind of unforeseen trade of Tim Patrick. I mean, obviously, we already know that he's been mentioned in plenty of rumors. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is another one there. But still, I mean, if you can specialize KJ Hamler and get him the ball quickly and into some space on some bubble screens, maybe even use him a little bit out of the backfield. I mean, in some pre-snap motion, jet motion, stuff like that, get the ball in his hands quickly and just let him go to work. That's the better role for him. And also using him in the slot, taking the top off of the defense. And we saw that just a little bit in the Carolina game. That second touchdown pass, he had a 46, 48 yards, something like that. That's the kind of things that you need to be doing with him. And again, it just goes back to the play calling, the play design, and injuries above him. It's kind of hard to think that this guy can get a lot better than really. He wasn't that great, guys. He had an 18.9% drop percentage, led the NFL. It's like, he's got to definitely work on that. I think some concentration issues and using him the right way, getting the ball in his hands quickly to where he doesn't have to go over the middle of the field and be subjected to those big major hits like he was this last season. I mean, there's definitely a possibility for him to grow into a new role and a bigger role and be an explosive and dynamic piece for this offense.
Yeah, and real quick, since I see this a lot in the chat, guys, we try to avoid guys who are rookies, just because we haven't seen them take the snap in there at all. In that, when I hear breakout, I'm talking about guys who they have some experience, they just haven't taken that big step forward, and so rookies, they just don't have that experience. And then I see a lot of Nathaniel Moody as well. I mean, expecting a guy who's on the bench to have a breakout year, it's going to be a little hard. I mean, he's only going to be starting if there's an injury.
Well, and That is an interesting conversation because I do have one rookie on this list, and just another name here, just a quick throw out: Quinn Miners, that rookie from Wisconsin Whitewater, who's going to come in and compete at the center position. That's a potential. There's a potential possibility there. But I want to, but quickly, just really fast here. The only other way that I see Netani Moody getting onto the field is if Graham Glasgow wins the center role and Netani Moody plays better than Miners does. Knowing the year in the system and having some continuity with the guys and coming back healthy, he could slide in at right guard, and that's probably the best chance for him. But I mean, it's a long shot because I think that the Broncos really like Miners, and I think that they want him to start at center this year.
Yeah, I think Quinn Miners is going to be given every chance to start over Lloyd Cushenberry at center. And I would say that Miners would be the one exception I would make for a rookie because of how big of a jump he's taking in level of competition. Mm-hmm. It's not like going from Alabama to the NFL. Like, this is one where even if he ends up starting, like, that's kind of a breakout for him because it's just such a huge level of jump there. And another thing with Netani Moody too is I understand there's a lot of hype around him because of his run blocking against Carolina last year, which, hey, that was great. But guys, go back and watch some of those pass blocking reps. I mean, even not just in that game, and the other reps that he had as well. He has so much he has to work on as a pass blocker. Mm-hmm. He dang near cost the Broncos the Carolina game.
He did. He got blown back straight up into the lap of Drew Lock in the end zone. It was going to be a safety, and fortunately, Lock got the ball out of his hands. And I don't remember exactly what happened. I do remember Netani Moody being put on skates, and it was a very bad rep. And actually, I remember, Eric, when you do your grades after the fact, your post game grades, you had Netani Moody as a I think it was a low 50s mark, and he had a pretty decent game.
He was like 24.
Okay, yeah,
in that game after that game.
But it was because of that last play, and the way that you do it is the ding from the last play. There was no rebound for him. There was no chance for him to come back and build that grade back up. So it was, you got a lot of flack for that, but I definitely agree with you. That one play could have cost the Broncos the game, and your analysis was spot on that. So, I mean, Moody was another guy that I was going to put on this list, but just because of the fact that you're just not sure if he's going to be that guy to take over that role, it's kind of hard to project that there. I mean, with KJ Hamler, yeah, you've got three options ahead of him, and he might see his role limited as far as his time on the field is concerned. But the way that they can use him and get him incorporated into the offense is a way that he can be that breakout kind of a player. Now, Eric, let's see. Let's flip this back over to you really fast. Let's start talking some defensive players here. I got a really good one that it's one of the secondary players, but I'm going to let you go ahead and start this one off.
On the defensive side of the ball is Draymond Jones. I mean, I've mentioned it multiple times on the podcast, is that it takes defensive linemen about 2 to 3 years to really break out into their own. And we started to see it last year. I mean, this is a guy who he only played 360 total pass rush snaps, and he got 30 pressures. That's a pretty good rate there. He ended up having 7 sacks in there, which was in the top 10 for interior defensive linemen. Like, he was really good last year. He's got to improve the run game. He was one of the worst in average depth of tackle against the run with a positive 3 yards allowed before he made the tackle. So that's a big concern there. But I really like what he brings as a pass rusher. I think having Mike Purcell and the right linebackers behind him will help ease those issues as a run defender. But I mean, I think it's about that point. I think we'll see double-digit sacks from him this year. The biggest thing is that he's going to be the starter without injuries happening for him to be the starter.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, and he's grown into that role. He really has taken that role by storm. Like you alluded to just a little bit, the play down the stretch of last year when Shelby Harris especially came back and was playing towards the end of the season. Draymond Jones with a little bit less of the added attention from the offensive line really took off. His hand placement was a lot better. His get off on the snap was a lot better. His ability to penetrate and break gaps. I think he had 3 sacks in the last 5 games or something like that. Like, he was tremendous down the stretch. But as you definitely said, he does need to get a lot better in the running game. He had I think it was like a 6.1 stop percentage or something like that per Pro Football Focus, which is about middle of the pack, and that's fine. But if you're getting driven off the ball like that, especially in the running game, and allowing 3 yards per rush to your side of the football field as a starting defensive lineman, you're going to have some struggles. And I think that another aspect of that is the injuries around him. Mike Purcell going down, Shelby Harris going down, Von Miller going down. He was really kind of a one-trick pony, especially when he had Malik Reed lined up next to him, because Malik Reed was absolutely atrocious last year against the run. And when you have Draymond Jones and Malik Reed both playing poorly against the run, it's pretty easy to run against this defense, especially when, I mean, Josie Jewell, who plays well and he does a good job identifying, he's not athletic enough to fill those gaps and to create those voids. Alexander Johnson as well, and hopefully you can get Baron Browning to play in a little bit of that over that Josie Jewell role. I think that might be a good spot for him, even though probably the better spot is Alexander Johnson. But if you get Johnson and Browning on the field at the same time in run stopping situations, I think that's a little bit better, because Josie Jewell just doesn't have the functional strength or the athleticism to play that role as a true run stopping off ball linebacker in the A gap. So I don't know. Draymond Jones, obviously last year, I thought that he was going to be a breakout player. He kind of struggled towards the beginning of the season, took on a bigger role towards the latter half. And I agree with you. He's definitely a player to watch.
Yeah, and before we get to your defensive player, I want to grab this comment real quick from Jason O'Neill. It says, "Hope you two are well. I have a question about the criticism or hate, as it were. As fans, as fans, are we not supposed to give honest opinions about the quarterback play? Even though I'm unsure, I still have faith." It's just a matter of just gut reactions from other fans and everything. So many people are just, you have to support the team no matter what. You can't criticize them. And I mean, everybody's a fan in their own way. Just be you. Like, that's all you can do. Just be you. Be a fan how you want to be. If you want to criticize them, then criticize them. I mean, it's like in the chat now, we have somebody in here calling Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler both busts. I disagree with that, but hey, man, you can have that opinion. I think that is way too early at this point to call either of them busts, because they both showed that potential. We got to see how they can grow. And so it's just, everybody's going to have this gut reaction to things of whatever said. I mean, and you're not going to appease everyone. No matter what take you have, you're gonna tick somebody off. If you're an avid Drew Lock supporter, you're gonna piss off people who think he's gonna fail, basically. And if you think that he's gonna fail, you're gonna piss off everybody who thinks that he can do no wrong and walks on water. So just do you.
Well, to me, and this is a pinned tweet on my Twitter account. It's been pinned, I think, for almost a year now. It's okay to be completely biased and support your team and love your team and want everything that's what's best for the team and be a staunch supporter of every player and whatnot like that. Like, there's fine. It's completely and totally fine. But then on the other side, it is okay to be critical and objective in your analysis. And that's the way that I choose. I am a fan and I love every single one of the Denver Broncos, but I'm going to remain critical and objective in my analysis and give you quality opinions based in fact. And like, watch it on the field, go to the statistics, do what you got to do. I'm not just going to bend over backwards to praise every single player. If they're not playing well, I'm going to say that. If they're playing well, I'm going to say that. Like, it's, to me, regardless of the player, whether it's Drew Lock or Pat Surtain or Justin Simmons or hell, Von Miller. If Von Miller is not playing well, I'm going to tell you, Von Miller is not playing well. But when Garrett Bowles is playing really well, I'm going to tell you, hey, stop talking crap on Garrett Bowles, because he's playing at an elite level. Like, you have to remain objective and critical in your analysis, also tell the truth, but still remain a fan at the end of the day. And that's a very fine line to walk. So I mean, and don't gatekeep people. That's the worst thing in the world. Don't be a gatekeeper and say you have to support everybody or you have to be a fan this way. Like, everyone, as Eric said, do you. Like, if that's the way you want to roll, then you go ahead and do that. So now, go ahead.
Going back to the chat real quick, since I see a couple of comments about Jerry Jeudy, is we both had a small conversation about him before we went live about if we should add Jerry Jeudy or not. And we kind of came to the conclusion as no, just because it's expected that he should have another big year, like that. I didn't anyways really want to include him for that. It's just expected. Like, he should finally step into his own. I mean, he had a pretty good year last year. He should take that next step forward. And Roughing the Passer said, should we be sleeping on McDelvin Agim? From what I've heard, it was a rough go from Agim last year, off the field, like not character issues or anything like that, but like in practice and stuff like that. And when it came to game time, it wasn't that much better. So we'll see. I mean, defensive linemen take 2 to 3 years. We'll see if he can take that step forward and potentially be even better this year.
Yeah, Like you said, it's just expected. Better quarterback play, more consistency catching the football, and the volatility that is the drop statistic. Everybody wants to point out that, and I pointed it out for KJ Hamler as well, the 18.9% drop percentage for KJ Hamler. Jerry Jeudy was right there with him, 18.8% drop percentage. That's one of the most volatile statistics in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot that can go into that. Concentration issues, quarterback play. I mean, improved concentration, improved quarterback play should see Jerry Jeudy trim that drop percentage down towards single digits, 5, 6, 7%. If he can do that, I mean, and it should be expected of him as a second-year player. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. had a 15% drop percentage as a rookie. He turned it into a 5% drop percentage his second year and turned into an elite receiver. So, I mean, as CC, yeah, you're absolutely right here. Jeudy is in for a breakout season. I think it's just by default as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just want to bring in some other names into the conversation here because Jerry Jeudy is a very obvious one. And kind of like what Eric said about Noah Fant, it's kind of an obvious one, but there are some big reasons as to why that potentially could be that Noah Fant's going to break out and be a top 10 or top 5 player at the position this year. I don't know that Jerry Jeudy is going to break into that kind of a role, but he has the ability to be he's already a top 7 route runner in the NFL. If he can use that concentration, get some better balls tossed in his direction, get him in that right catch frame for him, I mean, he could definitely have a huge season. But to flip it back over to the defensive side of the football here, my guy, and this is an interesting one because last year he led all Broncos cornerbacks in coverage snaps with well over 500, but he was also the only one of the Broncos cornerback room to play every single game. Michael Ojemudia here. Now, it's kind of a reach here a little bit because the Broncos did go out. They brought in Kyle Fuller. They brought in Ronald Darby. They're getting Bryce Callahan back from injury. They went out and drafted Pat Surtain in the first round this year. So you've got 4 options already over the top of him. But Ojemudia, the ability of him, he's a good hitter, but he's not a very good tackler. He took some lumps last year. I mean, he had a really bad game against Julio Jones in Atlanta. Had some struggles against the Pittsburgh Steelers as well, going against Chase Claypool, that 84-yard bomb. But typically, as far as Ojemudia is concerned, he's not a guy that gets anything over his head. He's not going to let somebody run past him and beat him deep. He keeps the play in front of him for the most part. I think he's going to grow into that role just a little bit. And it's crazy to say that as a 3rd-round pick last year and a guy that played as much as he did, he's going to be the 5th cornerback on the field this year. It's kind of rough. But I think that you can't expect that bounce-back season from him. Cornerback position is one of the most difficult positions to transition to from the college game to the NFL game. So I think we're going to see some improvement with Michael Ojemudia. And honestly, I know that there are rumors that people saying that he could slide over to safety. That very well could be a possibility. I think that might work for him. But if they just keep him on the boundary, let him do his thing as a depth player and get him more on special teams, let him use that hitting ability, and people are going to be plenty surprised by Michael Ojemudia.
Yeah, I agree. My issue is I just don't know how much he's going to actually see the field.
Right.
He started off pretty well. I mean, outside of that Pittsburgh game, he was one of the best rookie corners and best corners in the NFL. If you take that Pittsburgh game out for like the first 8 weeks of the season last year, and then he just started to have a big old collapse, and just got worse and worse. And missed tackles were such an issue. But guys, it's a little bit slow in the chat tonight, so we're going to be getting out of here pretty early. We're going to grab a couple more comments real quick and then one more super chat. So if you guys have any questions, now's the time to get them in. Super chats will obviously be the best way to make sure we see them and are able to get them. But there was one comment here that I wanted to grab, and there was another one from Roughing the Passer, and he was asking about Derek Tuska, potential breakout. I don't think so, because I think even if he makes the roster, he's going to have a very small role, unless injuries happen, of course. And I'm not exactly sure he makes the roster, to be honest. I mean, he's in a class below Jonathan Cooper, and I think Jonathan Cooper has the edge here.
Yeah, I do as well. And also being that recent draft pick, Tuska definitely should have a spot on the practice squad, though. I think that he played well enough last year towards the end of the season to at least get that opportunity. And if he does make the roster, he's going to be primarily a special teams player. I think that they're going to really rotate in Malik Reed a lot more, because as bad as he was against the run, at least he was effective as a pass rusher in a certain sense. Did a lot of cleanup work for Bradley Chubb, but with Chubb and Von Miller back, I'm actually with you, Eric. I think Jonathan Cooper has a little bit higher ceiling as a pass rusher. He's not the greatest run defender, but he does have a higher ceiling as a pass rusher, and that's a guy that they're going to use more. Tuska is probably better as a run defender because he uses that length so well. But
no, he uses his strength. He's not exactly long.
Well, yeah, length and strength of power, I guess, is the best way to put that, because you're right. But still, at the same time, I think Derek Tuska is probably on the outside looking and making this 53-man roster in the first place. Again, practice squad candidate for sure. But let's see here. Aaron Mason jumping in here with a $5 super chat. I'll grab a couple more comments after this, guys, and then we're probably going to get out of here. I've got packing and stuff to do. Erick's got date night and everything like that. We just got some other stuff in our own personal lives going on. So with it being a slow chat tonight, we're just probably going to cut this short. And unfortunately for you guys, it's not your fault, but also at the same time, we've just got to kind of cut it loose.
But it is all your guys' fault.
No, quarterback is our problem, not the defense. I mean, we've broken it down, and we're not going to get into the Drew Lock conversation or the Teddy Bridgewater. That's a conversation for another time. We're talking breakout play, which, hey, Drew Lock does have the potential possibilities as a breakout player. We'll talk about that more down the road. But no, the defense is going to be stacked this year. I really love the cornerback room. I love the secondary in general. The way that they went and got four defensive backs in this year, including one in the undrafted free agency. Kerry Vincent Jr. is another guy to watch out for to make this team as the sixth cornerback. Saying Bassey, another guy that I really like. But yeah, this defense is going to be insane this year.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's just quarterback this problem. It's just the offense in general. That's the easiest and most polite way to put it without hounding on one position. It's the offense in general. I mean, I know I've defended Pat Shurmur on here a lot, but he's not blameless here. Drew Lock's not blameless. The offensive line's not blameless. Like, the receivers aren't even blameless. They've had drops and everything. Like, it's just everybody. It was just, if it wasn't one thing, it was something else. Too many holes for them to fix, and I don't think they really fixed it this year. We'll see what's going to happen. And I saw somebody ask if you have the comment, John, you can pull it up, about Cushenberry moving to guard. And my thing is no. He's the part of the issue with him at center is that he just isn't strong enough for it. And at guard, that's going to be an even bigger issue. You don't have as much help there. And typically at guard you're either giving help to the guard or to the center or the tackle. I mean, if you don't have a one-up on yourself. So it's a little bit harder for that. And it's easier for him there to overcome the lack of strength. But another issue too is that he's soft. And I think that's one reason why Quinn Miners can beat him out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, because Quinn Miner's as strong as an ox, man. You watch him play. It's so fun to watch him come around the edge when they have him as pulling guard, even as a center, get him out in front and just let him go blow up a defensive back. Man, he's so much fun to watch. Manny Wise jumping in here, and Natafon actually coming in to slap him down just a little bit. Manny Wise saying defense was ranked 25th last season. They were definitely a problem. Well, when you're missing eight out of 11 starters, and then you're down to cornerback 9, 10, and 11, and you're signing Nate Hairston and Parnell Motley to come on to play valuable reps down the stretch. Like, yeah, oof.
I mean, he later says not all the problems were due to injury, and it kind of was. I mean, you lose your starting star edge. You lose 2 of your 3 starting defensive linemen. Your primary backup defensive lineman misses multiple games. Your other starting defensive lineman misses multiple games at the back half of the season. You're signing guys off the practice squad who are no longer in the NFL right now, or not on teams to play that. Then you didn't get hurt at linebacker, which in a way is, well, I mean, I guess they did. They lost Justin Sternad, who he was looking at kind of having a big role in coverage there. No injuries at safety, but they had no depth. But AJ Boye got hurt, and he never was able to fully recover. Bryce Callahan ended up getting hurt, and then Asang Basi ended up getting hurt, and then Boye also got suspended. Like, a lot of their issues on defense are because of the injuries. Like,
they lost Duke Dawson as well with the torn ACL. I mean, after they lost Justin Sternad, they went out and signed Mark Barron, who came on and practiced for like 3 days and blew a hammy out. Then they brought in Nigel Bradham, who never saw the field because he blew a hammy out. Like, every single time that they brought in somebody else to come in and play and fill the void, it was just really bad. And even despite all of that, they were ranked 25th. I'm not sure if that's points allowed or yards allowed, depending on which statistic you want to pull up there. But the one that really matters the most is they were the number 1 rated red zone defense in the NFL, despite all of those injuries. So there's a lot to work with there. I mean, let them run up and down the field. You get them inside the 20, clamp down on them, and make them kick field goals. And that's a winning recipe. Like, if you're going to let them score touchdowns, then that's a problem. But you can give up 500 yards a game. Look at the second Kansas City Chiefs game. They let the Chiefs drive up, and Patrick Mahomes threw for like 400 yards in that second Chiefs game. They scored 23 points because the Broncos held them down and clamped them down in the red zone and made them kick field goals. And that's how they stuck around and had a chance to win that game towards the end of the game. So, I mean, You look at it at face value, but you can look at it at face value and say that they were a bad defense. But when you really look into it and get some more context to it, there's a lot to like about the defense and the way that the scheme plays out and the way that they did play, like, overall.
And they were like 18th in DVOA, which is probably one of the best things to actually look at when ranking them. So, I mean, it's still not great by any means, but they were missing 4 starters. They were missing multiple primary backups. Like, the injuries were the big issue with the defense. I mean, it sucks. They couldn't get off the field on third down, which on third down, having your star pass rusher, having a star interior defensive line pass rusher, like, that's a key area where you need those guys. Well, but we have one last super chat before we get out here with Call of Duty, saying, with a $2.99 donation, saying, great pod, can't wait until you start talking the draft. Hey man, if I was allowed to, I'd be talking the draft all year round, but we're not allowed to. We kind of get, after like the start of like July, I think is what it is, we get told to go on hiatus for it basically, and we're not supposed to really talk about it, do any articles or anything until end of November, December, depending on what's going on with the playoff run.
Yeah, I mean, even then, so we're not talking about the draft for next year at this point. We're talking about the draft for this year and breaking down the analysis on that and stuff. So I should start doing a film series on these players. That should be fun. I think I might do that.
And final thing on here is there's a great thing here about separating the reasons from the excuses.
Mm-hmm.
The defense struggling as bad as they were with the injuries, it's not an excuse. It's the reason. Like, it's not an excuse. You gotta learn to separate that. An excuse would be, oh, the whole team was bad, but they dealt with all these injuries. The defense was bad because they dealt with all these injuries. Mm-hmm. You can't field a competent defense without competent players. And when you're down to starting 3 guys at cornerback who weren't even on the team 2 weeks prior, there's your reason.
Yep, that's a reason. It's not an excuse. Now, a reason for potentially poor quarterback play would be bad footwork. But yeah, that's a reason for missing all those throws.
And all those players are paid. All those players that get paid to play and to execute. That is true. And as you got shot down in the chat, yes, and some are paid more for a reason. There's a reason the guys the Broncos were signing were free agents.
And they were getting paid the vet minimum at $750,000 a year and it wasn't even the full $750,000. Those were game checks for that, like game checks to get to $750,000 over a 16 game season. Like they weren't getting paid that much, man. That's a reason why.
There's a reason why they're available. But that's going to do it up for us, guys. I'll pass it over to Lance so he can do the closing matters.
John, let me grab the sticks here and I'll run through the banners. Guys, thank you all for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow us both by finding me on Twitter at Sanderson MHH and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Also for John at John KMHH. Guys, while you're at it, at DVDD_pod. That's the podcast account. Easiest way to keep up with what's going on with the Dove Valley Deep Divers. We throw out some takes every now and again on that, but mostly just what our topic is for the most part. Also, guys, while you're at it, at Mile High Huddle, that's the mother account. You get breaking news and analysis on your Denver Broncos you got opinion articles, analysis articles, deep dives from your favorite Mile High Huddle personalities like myself, like Erick, like Nick and Carl over at the Building the Broncos podcast, Luke Patterson as well, Chad and Zach, Kenny Booker, the whole staff over there. Anything that drops on milehighhuddle.com, you will find it at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. For Facebook supporters, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Click the blue Become a Supporter button because that right there, guys, is one of the easiest ways that you're going to get yourselves locked into premium content like the Kelberman's Corner, which drops on Sundays at noon, and also like Erick's show over here, the Trickel Zone, which drops on Saturdays. Erick, you're back on for the Trickel Zone this week after missing last week. Are we talking the same
2 weeks?
Oh, that's right. That is right.
2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, last week there ended up being some issues here. Basically, got a late notice that they're shutting off our power, and I can't exactly broadcast when I have no power to do so. But yeah, I'll definitely. I'm barring anything happening. I should be back tomorrow, and it's going to be continuing. We're going to be talking about expectations for the rookie class this year, reasonable expectations for the rookie class this year.
Yeah, I mean, and there should be reasonable expectations, especially for guys like Pat Surtain, Javonte Williams, Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, those top guys, but also the reasonable expectations for the bottom of the draft, guys like Kerry Vincent Jr., Jonathan Cooper. So it's going to be a very fun episode. I can't wait to go check that out. But guys, if you're able and financial in a position to do so, head on over. We plugged it earlier, huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a hat, get yourself a t-shirt. There's a face mask. There's a coffee cup. We've got multiple hoodies up there. Going to try to get something new on for Dove Valley Deep Divers here soon. hopefully in the next week, actually. But anything to suit your fancy, guys. Something for the guys, something for the gals. There's a onesie for your baby if you want it. HuddleUpPod.com. It's a great way to support the show. But if you guys are not financially able to do so, there's 3 things that you guys all should be doing as of this particular point. I've been preaching this for over a year now, guys. First things first, subscribe wherever you guys are watching this podcast, whether it is on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Podcasts, After the Fact, iTunes. It does not matter. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video you guys see, especially on YouTube and on Facebook. That helps with the algorithm, and it helps to get us in front of as many Broncos fans as possible. And again, if you want to get it in front of as many Broncos fans as possible, if you love it, click the share button. Share it out to all your friends and family, and get our faces in front of as many people as you can, because that is simply the easiest and most organic way to help and grow the podcast. Now, with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining us once again. Eric, any last words before we get out of here?
Yes, make sure you guys turn up big next week. It's the 100th episode of Dove Valley Deep Dive.
Oh, you ruined it. That's right. Yeah, we got to
turn up big. It's gonna be a celebration. We're gonna be cracking the champagne bottles, and I won't say what word I actually wanted to come out of my mouth there, but we're gonna be cracking open the champagne bottles. We're gonna be celebrating. It's gonna be a good time, and big celebration. 100 episodes, man. I can't believe we actually made it. I can't believe I put up with this guy long enough to do that.
Hey, look at yourself in the mirror when you say that, man. I can't believe I put up with
I crack it.
Good answer. Yeah. 100 episodes, man. It's been a long go. We started this podcast back in 2019 and got ourselves to 100 episodes in a little less than 2 years, doing one show a week primarily, and then a couple shows a week last draft season. So it's been a fun and wild ride. I hope that we've grown and you guys have come to know and love and appreciate us for the analysis and the analysts that we are. So 100 episodes next week. We're going to incorporate a lot of you guys, get your guys' topics and questions and stuff like that. Try to incorporate some merch giveaway, maybe unveil a new t-shirt for the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast, and give one of those away as well. I'm going to talk to Chad about that here in the next couple of days and try to get that on the line. So anyways, guys, turn up for that. We appreciate and love and support, love all of your guys' support, because without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. So with that, guys, you all stay safe. Take care. We'll see you guys next week for episode 100. You guys have a great weekend. And as always, go